SummerSlam was a professional wrestling pay-per-view event produced by WWE that took place on August 18, 2013 at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California. It was the 26th annual SummerSlam, and the fifth consecutive one held at the Staples Center. The event received 296,909 buys, down from last year's event of 358,000. Background: SummerSlam featured professional wrestling matches that involved different wrestlers from pre-existing feuds, plots, and storylines that played out on WWE's primary television programs. Wrestlers portrayed villains or heroes as they followed a series of events that built tension and culminated in a wrestling match or series of matches. The tagline for the PPV is "The biggest event of the summer." On the July 15 episode of Raw, new Raw General Manager Brad Maddox announced that WWE Champion John Cena could choose his own opponent for SummerSlam. Later in the night, after taking an informal poll of the live audience, he chose Daniel Bryan. In the weeks leading up to SummerSlam, Vince McMahon would berate Daniel Bryan by trying to make him shave his beard, putting him into a gauntlet match, and pitting him against his former friend Kane. On the August 12 Raw, Maddox served as special guest referee in a match with Bryan facing Wade Barrett. After making a quick count to allow Barrett to win the match, Maddox offered his services as the guest referee for the Cena-Bryan match at the pay-per-view when Triple H interceded, and announced he would serve as referee instead. At Payback, CM Punk defeated Chris Jericho in his return match in his hometown. The next night on Raw, he turned face when he challenged World Heavyweight Champion Alberto Del Rio to a match. He won the match by countout, but was attacked by the returning Brock Lesnar. Over the next few weeks, tension rose between Punk and Paul Heyman. At Money in the Bank, Heyman cost Punk the WWE Championship Money in the Bank ladder match. The next night of Raw, Lesnar again attacked Punk. The next week, Heyman accepted Punk's challenge for a match at SummerSlam on behalf of Lesnar. On the July 19 episode of SmackDown, Randy Orton defeated World Heavyweight Champion Alberto Del Rio in a non-title match. However, on the July 29 Raw, Christian also defeated Del Rio in a non-title match. To determine the next challenger for Del Rio's championship, new SmackDown General Manager Vicky Guerrero decided to make a triple threat match between Christian, Orton, and the returning Rob Van Dam. The match ended with Christian reversing Orton's attempt of an RKO into a backslide pin, winning the match and becoming the new #1 contender for the title before being attacked by Del Rio. On the August 9 edition of SmackDown, Christian defeated Del Rio in another non-title match. At the Money in the Bank pay-per-view on July 14, Damien Sandow won the Money in the Bank briefcase for a future World Heavyweight Championship shot, betraying his former tag team partner Cody Rhodes in the process. Rhodes attacked Sandow after the latter's loss to Christian the following night on Raw. On the July 26 SmackDown, while Sandow was facing Randy Orton in a singles match, Rhodes took his briefcase, causing Sandow to lose the match and search for it. Rhodes threw it into the Gulf of Mexico, and Sandow was unable to retrieve it because he couldn't swim. It was announced on the August 5 Raw that Rhodes would face Sandow at SummerSlam. 4 days later on SmackDown, Sandow debuted his new, brown Money in the Bank briefcase with a new World Heavyweight Championship contract. Later on, after Christian defeated Del Rio in a non-title match, Sandow attempted to cash in his contract, but his effort was thwarted by Rhodes. On the July 8 Raw, after Kane defeated Christian in a singles match, the Wyatt family attacked Kane, removing him from competing at the Money in the Bank match for the WWE Championship contract. The Wyatt family attacked Kane again 3 weeks later on Raw, after Daniel Bryan defeated him in a singles match. A week later on Raw, after Eric Rowan and Luke Harper defeated Tons of Funk in a tag team match, Kane announced that he would face Bray Wyatt in a Ring of Fire match at SummerSlam. After AJ Lee retained her Divas Championship against Caitlyn at Money in the Bank and later on cost Dolph Ziggler at winning the World Heavyweight Championship, Ziggler broke up with AJ the next night on Raw, causing her to distract Ziggler in his non-title rematch against Del Rio and leaving Big E Langston to attack him. On the July 29 Raw, Caitlyn defeated AJ in a non-title match to stay in contention for the Divas Championship, but 4 days later on SmackDown, AJ defeated Caitlyn to retain the championship due to Layla interfering and protecting AJ. A week later on SmackDown, The Miz, the host of SummerSlam, announced that Caitlyn and Ziggler would face AJ and Langston in a mixed tag team match at the PPV. On the August 12 Raw, as a result of their feud stemming from starring on Total Divas, Natalya challenged Brie Bella to a match at the pay-per-view, which she accepted by slapping Natalya's face. Natalya also announced that the Funkadactyls will be in her corner due to the fact that Eva Marie has aligned herself with the Bella twins. Later, on the same episode, Rob Van Dam won a 20-man battle royal to win the right to challenge United States champion Dean Ambrose for the title at the SummerSlam kickoff show, 1 hour prior to the pay-per-view broadcast. Event, pre-show. In the pre-show, Dean Ambrose faced RVD. The back-and-forth battle Euro, which streamed live on WWE.com, the WWE app, YouTube, Facebook, Yahoo! Samsung Smart TVs, Sony PlayStation 3, Twitter, Google+, Pinterest and Feed. As part of the hour-long kickoff show, a Euro featured the involvement of not only WWE Tag Team Champions Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, but also Mark Henry and Big Show. Van Dam a Euro unregistered trademark S high-octane style Euro, which earned him #1 contendership with a victory in a Raw 20-man battle royal Euro, and Ambrose Euro unregistered trademark S technical wizardry were on display from the outset in front of a sold-out crowd inside Los Angeles Euro unregistered trademark Staples Center. After a feeling-out process, the A Euro OE Hound of Justicia Euro took control with his distinctive offense, grounding his high-flying #1 contender and turning the match into a gritty brawl. Utilizing elbows, knees and a stinging neckbreaker, the U.S. champion taunted the WWE fan favorite as he attempted several pinfalls. Mr. Pay-Per-View, however, proved that he was just as impressive and dangerous, dazing his black-clad opponent with a series of acrobatic kicks. Showing tremendous physical and strategic flexibility, RVD turned a Rolling Thunder attempt into a beautiful crossbody, bringing the WWE Universe to its feet. After missing a split-legged moonsault, the former WWE champion nailed Rolling Thunder and was ready to close out the victory with his rib-rattling 5-star frog splash. That is, until the WWE Tag Team Champions, Reigns and Rollins, crashed the party, giving Ambrose the distraction he needed to escape the ring. Before the A Euro OE Hounds of Justicia Euro could team up on RVD, however, the challenger got some supersized backup of his own, as Mark Henry and Big Show came out to even the odds. The massive presence of the World Euro unregistered trademark S strongest man and the World Euro unregistered trademark S largest athlete helped immediately. When Ambrose tossed RVD from the ring, the Behemoths kept Reigns and Rollins from attacking at ringside, giving him an opening to hit Ambrose with an amazing spinning kick off the apron. As the momentum swung back and forth in the wildly exciting match, a distraction from Rollins nearly led to another pinfall by Ambrose, but Van Dam kicked out and kept the pressure on. Hitting Rolling Thunder again and following with the devastating 5-star frog splash, he had the U.S. champion all but finished. Then, out of nowhere, Reigns stormed the ring and nailed Van Dam with a massive spear, giving him the disqualification victory, but not the U.S. title. After the controversial end to their battle, is a rematch with Ambrose in Van Dam a Euro unregistered trademark S immediate future? And could the WWE Tag Team Champions have some dangerous Euro, and enormous Euro new adversaries in Henry and Big Show? No matter what unfolds, a Euro unregistered trademark S hard to claim that a Euro O Justicia Euro was served in the SummerSlam kickoff match. Preliminary matches. The first match featured Kane and Bray Wyatt in a Ring of Fire match. Though Kane was born in flames, the fire didn't a Euro unregistered trademark T-phase Bray Wyatt in his debut match. Nevertheless, the Big Red Monster was relentless in his quest for retribution against his opponent. The Ring of Fire Euro unregistered trademark S purpose and power was displayed early on as Harper and Rowan tried to enter the ring, only to be prevented by the flames that shot into the air. The elemental danger of the environment was also on display. Every time Kane or Wyatt executed a powerful maneuver, flames would suddenly erupt. Kane maintained momentum throughout the battle, dominating the ambitious and cryptic newcomer as Harper and Rowan frantically tried everything to get inside the ring. An attempt to get a kendo stick to Bray Wyatt failed when the stick caught fire and one of the firefighters at ringside extinguished the flaming foreign object. With seemingly nothing stopping him, the big red monster continued to dismantle Wyatt. Following 2 huge chokeslams, the Davila unregistered trademark S favorite Demon channeled his brother, The Undertaker, and gestured for a tombstone piledriver. However, Harper and Rowan finally overcame the flames using an asbestos blanket and were able to attack Kane. Attempting to fight them off, Kane was eventually overwhelmed and decimated by Bray Wyatt unregistered trademark S powerful family members. The referee was powerless to stop the match. A victory could only be determined by pinfall or submission. This allowed Wyatt to grab Kane and execute his signature maneuver to secure the victory. Following the match, Wyatt retreated to his rocking chair and watched as Harper and Rowan used 2 sets of steel steps to smash Kane's skull. The lantern-wielding superstar, with Harper and Rowan in tow, then carried an unconscious Kane away from the Staples Center. The next match was between Cody Rhodes and Damien Sandow. The former tag team partners were very familiar with each affair. Unregistered trademark S habits in the squared circle, resulting in a back-and-forth matchup that saw neither superstar dominate for any consistent length of time. Near the beginning of the encounter, Sandow landed his Cubito Aiquat maneuver, and followed up with a limb-twisting submission hold that was a hybrid between Ric Flair unregistered trademark S figure 4 leg lock and Bret Hart unregistered trademark S sharpshooter. Though anguishing on the canvas, Cody channeled the aptitude of his father during Dusty unregistered trademark S legendary wars with the Nature Boy. Seeking to avenge the betrayal at last among the unregistered trademark S Money in the Bank pay-per-view, Rhodes powered out of the figure 4 variation and appeared newly energized. The multi-time World Tag Team Champion stormed back with a flawless top rope missile dropkick. When Rhodes missed his signature disaster kick, a second attempt finally sent his opponent reeling after suffering a stiff boot to the jaw. From there, it was simply a elementary. Cody administered the crossroads and pinned the Money in the Bank ladder match winner. Yet even though Cody may have won the match, Sandow clutched his beloved Samsonite, still in possession of a World Heavyweight Championship contract. Under the bright lights of Tinseltown, the grandson of a plumber shined, cementing his destiny as anything but a common man. The next bout was between Alberto Del Rio and Christian. From the word go, the WWE Universe was treated to a truly epic struggle, which pitted the unrelenting viciousness of a world-class title holder against the absolute determination of his number 1 contender. As a result, neither competitor would give an inch in the early stages of the contest. When Del Rio finally gained an edge, he immediately began to target his opponent unregistered trademark S shoulder, skillfully looking to weaken him for the dangerous cross-arm breaker submission hold. However, every time it looked as if the Mexican champion would finish off his adversary, the resilient Christian would fire back, throwing caution and his body to the wind both inside and outside the ring. Then, in the height of the action, though Christian finally hit the spear, the pain of his injured shoulder ripped through his body and prevented him from going for the quick cover. Smelling an opening, the resourceful Del Rio turned the tables and locked in the cross-arm breaker. After struggling with the heart of a true warrior, Christian was left no choice but to tap out. Following the match, no one sang the praises of the defending World Heavyweight Champion more as Del Rio himself, who declared himself a true role model for the WWE Universe. Now that the sun has set on Christian unregistered trademark SummerSlam hopes, time will tell if Captain Charisma has gotten his last opportunity at a world title. But who will step up to challenge Del Rio next? Find out tomorrow on Raw. Natalya would then face Brie Bella in a singles match. The Bellas have been at odds with their reality show co-star since the show unregistered trademark July premiere. calling Natalya the Divas Division a Euro unregistered trademark S a Euro Ugly Duckling a Euro. Their rivalry has only intensified as a Euro OE Total Divas a Euro has become a Euro unregistered trademark S biggest reality success of 2013. With the Funkadactyls in her corner, in-ring veteran Natalya proved once again why she a Euro unregistered trademark S one of the most dominant divas WWE has ever seen. At SummerSlam, the A Euro OE Queen of Hearts a Euro refused to let the devious Bella Duo and Eva Marie into her head with their insults and idea that their Euro unregistered trademark the true stars of Total Divas a Euro. After exchanging slaps even more vicious than those they traded earlier this week on Raw, Brie tried to wear down Natalya with punishing kicks and holds, yelling at her opponent to a Euro OE give up a Euro. The third generation diva retaliated with a sharpshooter, but Brie powered her way out. When Eva Marie and Nikki tried to intervene in the match, Cameron and Naomi stepped in on Natalya Euro unregistered trademark S behalf, bringing the Funk right back into the Divas corner. After a hard-hitting Alabama slam, Natalya locked Brie into the sharpshooter again, this time forcing her to tap out. Main event matches. In one of the first main event matches, Brock Lesnar beat CM Punk in no disqualification match. The bout was nothing short of remarkable, a supremely barbaric affair that ravaged the ringside area and left the sold-out Staples Center breathless. The addition of the no disqualification stipulation, agreed to by both individuals, was proposed by He-Man and revealed on the kickoff event immediately preceding the pay-per-view broadcast. Ultimately, the 11th hour curveball was perhaps Punk a Euro unregistered trademark S undoing, as He-Man repeatedly broke up in submission attempts that appeared seconds away from doing the unthinkable, slaying the Beast incarnate. The action started at a breakneck pace, with Lesnar out-muscling his smaller foe and focusing his punishing offense on Punk a Euro unregistered trademark S rips, not yet completely healed from the Beast a Euro unregistered trademark S attack on Raw weeks ago. Despite speculation among certain segments of the WWE Universe that Punk would be wholly overmatched, however, the best in the world proved completely fearless, and his never-say-die spirit, galvanized by the decidedly pro-Punk fans in attendance, allowed him to survive maneuvers that would have undoubtedly downed most superstars. Lesnar tossed Punk onto tables, slammed his body with a steel chair and rocketed him overhead with a belly-to-belly suplex on the floor. The farm-strong Lesnar placed a table cover over a prone Punk and leapt on him. A lariat that landed on Punk a Euro unregistered trademark S jaw and neckline prompted Michael Cole to describe the scene as a Euro OE sickening assault a Euro. Still, Punk would not give in. Even when Lesnar clamped on his Kimura lock, the same maneuver that has broken the arms of Triple H and Shawn Michaels, the straight-edge superstar not only avoided submitting, but even reversed the hold into a cross-arm breaker and eventually a triangle hold that nearly made the big man tap. At ringside, He-Man alternated between mockingly imploring Punk to a Euro stay down a Euro and encouraging Lesnar to a Euro or punish him a Euro. It was more than He-Man a Euro unregistered trademark S taunting, however, that led to Punk a Euro unregistered trademark S downfall. After Punk connected with the go-to-sleep, He-Man broke up the pinfall. The best in the world got even, punching He-Man and even slapping on the Anaconda Vice, but the brief and sweet moment of retribution was halted by the wallop of chair strikes from Lesnar. With the upper hand, Lesnar dropped Punk with a devastating and match-ending F5 onto a chair, some 25 minutes after the match had started. Punk had given it his all but finally was pinned by Lesnar. Before SummerSlam, He-Man had dismissed comparisons of a Euro OE the best versus the Beast a Euro to the tale of David and Goliath, labeling it a Euro OE preposterous a Euro, and He-Man was correct in saying the analogy was off point. Goliath didn't a Euro unregistered trademark T have a scheming, vindictive strategist in his corner. Despite the loss, Punk a Euro unregistered trademark S effort was more than appreciated by the Staples Center crowd, which loudly chanted his name as he limped back up the ramp. In the next main event, Dolph Ziggler and Cat Lee beat Big E Langston and AJ Lee. For the first half of this year, Big E was Dolph Ziggler a Euro unregistered trademark S heavy, flanking the former Mr. Money in the Bank for months. but once Dolph dumped AJ, the vindictive ex countered by sicking the monstrous Langston on her former beau. Ziggler recruited Caitlyn a unregistered trademark S longtime best friend come rival a to even the odds in a contentious situation fueled by heartbreak, revenge and the desire for victory. It was speed versus muscle to start off the action, with Big E employing a series of power maneuvers, looking to dissect the former world heavyweight champion limb from limb. The impressively strong Langston even dragged Dolph to the corner of the ring, where Ziggler sustained a slap across the face from the erratic AJ. The tables were turned, however, when the leader of the 8th Militia administered strength moves of her own. Caitlyn seemed poised to remain in control, but AJ's unregistered trademark T1 to easily relent. The Divas champion returned with a series of impressive neckbreakers, each more vicious than the last. The action later moved to the floor at ringside, where Caitlyn plowed through AJ with a spear that seemed to send the Divas champion flying straight out of her Chuck Taylors. Back on the canvas, Langston laid out Ziggler with a devastating clothesline, but the Sherwood Fossen unregistered trademark T about to allow his opponent to show him up at the biggest party of the summer. Dolph, with his neon shades and bleach blonde hair, seemed right at home in the shadow of Venice Beach and the Hollywood Hills. The dynamic fan favorite nailed a zigzag and pinned his former heavy to pick up the victory. But with neither Caitlyn or AJ involved in the 3 count, matters over the Divas Championship have been left unresolved. Ziggler, on the other hand, can only have one thing on his mind, refocusing his attention on once again becoming a world champion. In the final main event, Daniel Bryan faced the champion John Cena for the WWE title. Despite Bryan unregistered trademark S touting of his match with Cena as a battle between a wrestler and an entertainer, the champ seemed much more in tune with his inner grappler than the former world heavyweight champion gave him credit for in previous weeks. The match began firmly in Bryan unregistered trademark S wheelhouse as the beard traded catch can holds with the champ in the contester unregistered trademark S early minutes. Cena's uncharacteristically flashy attempts to appropriate Bryan unregistered trademark S style proved ill-advised and quickly landed him on the wrong end of OES. A Euro lock. The champ wisely moved the action back into his own comfort zone, settling into a happy medium between power and technique by executing a textbook suplex that lifted his challenger off the steel steps and harshly deposited him onto the floor of the Staples Center. Bryan quickly recovered and flattened the champ with a revved-up clothesline that turned Cena into a hulking splat on the canvas. The Cenation leader responded by launching into his infamous 5-knuckle shuffle. Yet, true to his word, Bryan was prepared for everything Cena had in store for him. The submission expert countered the attitude adjustment by landing in cat-like fashion on his feet and descending the ropes for a vicious missile dropkick that left the champ down again. Cena caught his first major break of the match when he trapped Bryan in the STF, but the challenger reversed the maneuver into an STF of his own. The mighty title holder a unregistered trademark S strength saved him from a defeat by his own hold, yet Bryan showed no quarter and instantly transitioned into a pair of belly-to-back suplexes that sent the champ thudding to the mat like an anvil. Bryan continued to stay one step ahead of Cena, but the champ met his challenger's relentlessness with brute force to match his famous heart. When Bryan attempted a top rope superplex, Cena twice swatted him down, and twice Bryan returned to try again. The third time, Bryan switched up his attack and nailed the champ with a dropkick that finally weakened Cena enough for the #1 contender to execute the superplex. In one of the most memorable moments from a match full of them, Bryan hung upside down from the turnbuckle and hulked up before the WWE Universe unregistered trademark SIs, building his rage to a fever pitch and taking to the skies with a flying headbutt. Cena quickly rolled for cover outside the ring, and this time it was his turn to cut Bryan off with a shoulder to the submission expert unregistered trademark S face mid-suicide dive. With Bryan dazed into a stupor, the champ climbed the turnbuckle and finally hit home, planting Bryan with the same top rope leg drop that nearly decapitated The Rock at WrestleMania XXVII. Even that, however, only earned him a 2 count, and Daniel Bryan's dream remained alive. With his reserves of strength finally running dry, the champ resorted to an outlandish series of improvisations as he attempted to put Bryan away for good. He came closest with an STF that he modified by rolling onto his side, but the number one contender sprang back to life and escaped, plying Cena with a Euro-OES. A Euro lock that aggravated Cena. A Euro unregistered trademark S elbow to the point referee Triple H momentarily stopped the action. Bryan, however, showed less mercy than the rulebook and pounded Cena with a pair of running dropkicks that left the champ staggering. Yet as Bryan reared for the finishing blow, Cena charged from the corner and clotheslined Bryan, catapulting the number one contender into a full flip. Having thrown move after move at each other, the two combatants staggered up and went brutally back to the basics. In a vicious twist on the Japanese custom Bryan referenced 6 days earlier, laced into each other with open palm slaps that certainly did their job and brought out the best of each man in the match. A Euro unregistered trademark S waning moments. What followed was the stuff legends are made of, as Cena snatched the number one contender out of the sky during a flying headbutt and, proclaiming the contest a Euro over, a Euro went for another AA that Bryan rolled into an old-school cradle for a 2 count before striking with a kick to Cena. A Euro unregistered trademark S head. With yes chants showering him from the Staples Center, Bryan blasted Cena with a running knee smash to the head for the pinfall victory, thus earning him his second world title and first ever WWE Championship. As confetti rained upon the newly minted WWE Champion, it seemed for a moment that Cena would deck Bryan out of frustration. He instead offered his challenger words of wisdom that only Bryan could hear before clasping his hand in a show of respect. Acknowledging the Gamea Euro unregistered trademark S fulfilled promise to call the match down the middle, Cena shook Triple H Euro unregistered trademark S hand as well. In hindsight, this might have been premature. With Bryan's Euro unregistered trademark S title reign in its infancy, Randy Orton quickly emerged from the locker room and slithered through the falling confetti with his Money in the Bank contract in hand. The brave new world champion, however, was ready and more than willing to tangle with the Viper, daring Orton to attempt his promised cash-in. Ever the tactician, the Viper seemed to want no part of an able-bodied WWE champion. But moments after Bryan had repelled the Viper, the game shocked the WWE Universe and their new champion by cutting down Bryan with a devastating pedigree. With a smile, the game beckoned Orton to the ring and happily accepted his Money in the Bank contract, counting the pinfall and handing Orton his first WWE title in 3 years without a single drop of sweat spilled. And so ended Daniel Bryan's Euro unregistered trademark S reign as WWE Champion, with the Fiopli Euro unregistered trademark S chosen hero splayed across the mat and a pair of men entrusted to do the right thing celebrating over his body. What this means for the future of Orton, Triple H and the WWE title is Anonea Euro unregistered trademark S guess, but this much is clear, having come this close to reaching the peak, Daniel Bryan will find his retribution in the long run. As this match showed, he does a Euro unregistered trademark T-take defeat lying down. Though, at the biggest party of the summer, it seemed he was left with no other choice than to take a Euro OENOA Euro for an answer. Results, Aftermath. On August 19 edition on Raw, John Cena confronted the audience, informing them he was temporarily leaving the WWE due to a triceps surgery. He returned at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view against Alberto Del Rio. The same day, The Shield, Randy Orton formed an alliance with the WWE COO Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, The Authority, which was created to stop Daniel Bryan from regaining the WWE Championship. Del Rio's former ring announcer Ricardo Rodriguez began working with Rob Van Dam. On the September 13 edition of SmackDown, he was defeated by Del Rio and was assaulted by him afterwards. After SummerSlam, AJ Lee ended her partnership with Big E Langston and at Night of Champions, she faced Natalya, Naomi and Brie Bella of the Bella Twins for the WWE Divas Championship in a fatal four-way match. During at that time, AJ starts to hate E!'s TV series Total Divas due to retaining her championship to the cast. CM Punk continued to feud with Paul Heyman. He lost to Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam and defeated the Intercontinental Champion, at that time, Curtis Axel on August 26 edition of Raw. On September 2 edition of Raw, Big Show fought Daniel Bryan and attempted to exit the ring before Stephanie McMahon told him to return and knock out Daniel Bryan. Cody Rhodes was fired after being defeated by Randy Orton on the September 2 edition of Raw. Then, on the September 9 edition of Raw, Cody's brother Goldust returned in an attempt to earn his brother's job back but failed to do so. The Authority then invited to Cody and Goldust's father Dusty Rhodes to Raw, but after an argument Stephanie McMahon ordered Big Show to knock out the American Dream. At WWE Battleground, Cody and Goldust got their jobs back after defeating The Shield's Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, and on the October 14 edition of Raw defeated Reigns and Rollins to win the WWE Tag Team Championship in a non-disqualification match due to interference by Big Show, knocking out all three members of The Shield. References. External links, official website.